Well, good afternoon to those who are attending today. Good day, good morning, good afternoon, whichever it may be for each of you. Glad that you guys were able to make it. With the news, for some people that have not been watching the news under the CMMC guidelines, there have been some major changes as of yesterday, less than 24 hours ago. I will like to address those towards the slide deck towards the end, as there are a lot of questions that have come up in the last 24 hours. But no matter what that decision is, and the push out for 60 days, for those that don't know, phase two got pushed out 60 days, which was originally scheduled for November 10th. That does not mean what was good last week has gone away. So what was yesterday or 2 days ago, that is still in the game. So we're going to talk about that, and then towards question and answer time, I will bring out some of the information that we know as the latest information. And I've got a screen over here to see if anything has been adjusted. So with that, I'd like to get started. My name is David Neal. I am a senior security advisor for Netrix. I've been a guy that's been around for 40 years in the world of IT, dealing mostly with compliance and security, a lot of cybersecurity in my past, present, and future. And my email address is there if anyone wants to reach out. Plus, you can also get in touch with me via this presentation. So, going off of the information that we have as the latest, we're going to talk about what is CMMC and what does it mean for a law firm. We'll talk about the supply chain. How does a law firm work in the supply chain in the vertical of CMMC? Why do law firms? Why are they in the scope? How does that work, and what does that mean? Executive coming from the law firms. What are their concerns about CMMC? And then where does a law firm get started? And then we'll talk about next steps. Next steps has been a little bit interrupted because of what was announced yesterday, but it doesn't mean that what was good a week ago is no longer good. It's all still in process. All right. So what is CMMC? CMMC is a compliance that the Department of Defense, and it used to be the DoD, now it's the DoW, the Department of War, started putting on a group of security compliance regulations that said, we are giving you information that is pertinent and private by the government, and we're placing it in your hands, and you need to protect it. For the longest time, go back 10 years ago, there were very little controls that were put in place to protect our top secret, buildings and blueprints of a jet engine or a fighter aircraft, a camera, whatever it may be. That was a contractor supplying the government with things. There were things that should be protected. And so the CMMC is the cybersecurity maturity model that basically says, if you want to deal with the government, you're going to have to meet these certain qualifications. You're going to have to protect this information. And in that, it comes out with two different levels of data in the contract. So if a contractor signs a contract or is working towards a contract, they must prove that they can meet several different levels. And we'll get into levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. Of the data. It can be federal contract information, which is the lowest level, and you must show that you are protecting that data. In other words, you have security, you have controls, you have mechanisms in place to protect the data the government is sharing with you. And then moving up the level, there is another one called the CUI. And then the CUI is controlled classified information. This is not top secret, but it could be information that is entrusted to the contractor that if it was in the wrong hands, it could be used against the government or give information that is deemed inappropriate for the public. So you have to show your level of security around those devices. So with that, CMMC is protected data that is entrusted to a contractor. And in the words, of the law speak, if you are the law firm and you are looking over the contracts or the blueprints And that data that is documented as CUI or FCI, you need to be protecting it, and you need to have controls in place that allow you to view that data or have access to that data. You must protect it. The government wants to know it's protected, even though the contract may not be with you, but you are a sub or you are the counsel for a company with the contract. And if you have privilege to that, then you need to protect it. Moving on. So FCI and CUI, this is information that is included in the contract that the vendor or the contractor that is working the contract for the federal government, when they go after a specific contract, it will say this has FCI, this has CUI, and it will say in order to accept or be eligible for this contract, you must meet. And it will say whether it's a CMMC level 1, CMMC level 2, may be what's called level 2 self and level 2 C3APO, and we'll get into what those are. It will tell them in the contract. So as a law firm, if you have a client who is a Department of Defense or Department of War contractor, and their contract says that they are a level 2 self, validation or compliance needs to be met, and you as the law firm or the advisor to them, and they're sharing that information with you, you now have to meet that compliance. Not as hard as we think. We'll get into that and how we can make that a win scenario for both parties. The burden does not have to overwhelm the law firm. It is basically security, and you must be able to document that. But the biggest thing for the law firms, I would ask you to do two things. One, identify if you currently have clients that have CUI or FCI, and that is being shared with you. If that data is in your firm and on your servers, then you are going to have to do something about that to protect it and show evidence that you are. Articles of evidence stating this is what we've done. These are the controls that are in place. So first thing is to identify that data. Do you have that? Are you sharing that? Do you have privilege to that? Are you dealing with that data? Are you sharing that data? Are you transmitting that data? You need to know if you have the CUI, the FCI, and where is it within your company. Moving on. The forgotten supply chain, I've kind of listed that. A lot of law firms are not aware that if you are exchanging that data with your client who is a vendor to the DOW, the DOD, you are to take concern about the validity and the security of that data. It is the government's data. It is not yours, and the vendor wants, or the government wants to know the vendor is protecting it, and if you have access to it, they want to know that you are protecting it. So find out where the data is. The cybersecurity roles are there. The government did not make this up. It is out of a thing called NIST, the National Institutes of Standards and Technology. There are rules, and as a law firm, you're probably following a lot of these, but there is a documented process that you would need to go through for CMMC. It will allow, if a law firm goes through and becomes CMMC level 2 compliant or higher, that gives you great marketability to any vendors who are looking for, and these are contractors to the governments. Those people are looking for law firms that, hey, can you assist me with this? You could be legal counsel if you are able to meet this level, because a lot of law firms are not chasing this bucket of money that's out there for the $200,000 to $300,000 small businesses that are achieving and able to get the contracts from within the government. And that's hundreds of millions of dollars are out there. So we're seeing a lot of these small businesses are trying to obtain this CMMC certification. So with that, We want to make sure that if you are the law firm and your client is a vendor to the government, that you are upholding the security that is wrapped around the CMMC process. Now, with that, we get into, what is the scope? The scope is the measurability of how wide does this go. So in the world of security, you may have a law firm, and I'm just going to say a law firm is 50 staff. Does everyone within the company touch this data, or is it maybe one lawyer that specializes with a vendor that is dealing with this? If you can smash that down to a smaller group, in the world of CMMC, that is called an enclave. And so you could say all of our government information that is taken between our client that is dealing with a CMMC compliance, it goes through one or two people. That is an enclave of two. And if we can prove the policies and procedures and all the controls for a very small enclave, we don't have to deal with the 50 people. We would only have to deal with 2 people. That makes a lot more sense. It's a lot easier to set this up for 2 people than it is to have your whole company of 50, or lawyers are working from home, or we have 5 offices around the country. If you have a smaller group that is eligible, or you can make a subset of your network and do those things, and that's what we help companies with, is to define the scope. What is within scope of the CMMC contract? That will allow you to get through it much faster. You don't have to do it for all 50 people. You just have to do it for the people that have access to the CUI and FCI that is shared with you. Now, the CMMC scope, it is beyond. You can supply directly to the government. There are requests and things that are out there that they're looking for legal counsel in different states and different places. There's federal, but there's also different things for import and export. A lot of different things that law firms can be a part of, not just the vendor or client small business opportunity. But a law firm has to show that they are protecting this data from the DOW. Hidden risks, there's always risks. If there is a breach of data or an audit is performed on, let's say, your client, and your information is shown there that, yes, I've shared this information with my law firm, that may come to you next. And anytime there is an audit, they will look at everything that is within scope. If you are named within that scope, I shared this, my attorney has all of the blueprints and has every email that I have responded back and forth with the government, you now become in scope. So look for the information that is either currently within your law firm or information that you have with a client who is a vendor to the government, and look and find out how much of that data is shared across. Are you involved in that? Are you storing that? Look for that. So every law firm needs to think about that. If any of your clients have CUI or have contracts with the government, you need to look at it very closely, determine if you have it, and find out, are you holding it? Are you transmitting it? Are you modifying that data or holding it? You need to take concern as to what's in there. So moving on. Executive level concerns. The bosses are all want to know, what is risk? The risk of holding this data, like I brought up before, if you are not taking care of the data, it can cost you, it'll cost your client more. You need to protect that if it's shared or if it's brought over to you. If you hold the data, then you are at risk of not protecting it. It can have a revenue impact on your client if there is a loss of data, or if the loss of data comes through you. There can be damages imposed upon this. One of the things in a CMMC audit is there is a signature, there is a sign off that everything you've said into this self-assessment or in a level 2 self-assessment, you have to sign off on it. And then if you do a full audit, a C3 APO, if you do that, they are signing off, and the highest ranking person for the most part has to sign off that everything here is truthful and honest. And if that is ever found to not be true, penalties can occur, and that depends upon the volume of the contract as to where that goes. If a law firm faces a risk or a breach of data or a ransom effect of something coming in and that data is exposed, then damages can come back at you. Reputational issues can be there. The three-letter agencies are not kind to breaches, and they don't want to have their information being taken away. There are a lot of risks in third parties that are holding data for those that are involved in cybersecurity. The biggest hacks were usually not through the front door, but they were from a third party and then coming in through the back door. So be cautious of that. And then one of the things that we look at with a lot of firms that are achieving the CMMC certifications is it gives you an advantage. You can place that on your website if you've completed your CMMC audits, and then that puts you in a much different place to be able to bring in clients that are vendors to the government. And a lot of those contracts are sizable, especially even in small business. It may be half of their business is federal contracts. Somebody's having to advise them, and a lot of those seek counsel for a lot of different reasons. So where to start? The CMMC, start with your data. This is 4 good points here. Start with the data. If you have CUI that is in your client folders, and one thing that I've heard from some of the law firms is they're like, well, we have client privilege. You may have client privilege, but the data that you're holding is the government's, and they play different. Client privilege does not cover you with the protection of the government's data. So if CUI is on your network, you need to know where it is. You need to know how you're protecting it. You need to talk to your IT people or the attorneys, how much information is being shared with your client and how much of that data has been transmitted to you in email or file uploads, or, hey, here's the contract, here's the information, here's the whatever the client is sharing with you. You need to know where that data is. Second thing I always talk to law firms about is create an enclave. If you are going to hold this data, where is it? Is it in a shared folder with everybody has access to it? Is it in a proper place? Is it in a local server? Is it in the cloud? Where is the CUI or the FCI in your business? Can you show how it comes into the company? Can you show how you're storing it? And then let's go in and let's actually protect that data, and we must be able to document that process. A lot of places in just about every law firm I've ever dealt with, which are many, it's better to buy security than it is to try to build it yourself and do something that may not be as secure as you think it is. Get into the Microsoft Office 365 government. It doesn't have to be for your entire corporation. It can be just for those 2 people I mentioned earlier. Or Google has a place, AWS, a lot of different places have facilities where you can drop this data in, and then it meets the government compliance. Doesn't do any good if you're on a Windows 10 workstation at your house and you're storing everything. That could be a violation. You want to take a look at where that data is, where it's going, where it's stored, how are you backing it up? Is it on, a USB or whatever? You need to take a look at that and find out where it is. Then once you do that, focus on the identity. Who has access? How is it getting in? It's not firewall protection, a lock on the door. It's your login. How comfortable are you with your logins? Are you using MFA to protect this data? Can anybody get to it? Can it be printed on any printer? Look at the identity and what are you doing to protect who has access into the data, not just it's on our server and it's secure. That doesn't do. Who has group permissions to that information, or where is that information? How can anyone address it that's not in our enclave of users that we are allowing to protect? So start with where it is, make the group that is using this data as small as possible, make sure it is in a secured environment, and then look at who has access to this data. working more at your login level and not necessarily the other pieces. All of this aligns with a National Institutes of Standard and Technology. It is called NIST, and it is an 800-171 is the basis, and we're getting ready to go to a new version of that at some point in the future. And it's level 2 is basically the validation of these controls. Now, I mentioned earlier that there are several levels. There is called a self-assessment. A self-assessment, level 1, has 17 controls. And a control is, are you implementing MFA? Yes or no? How often are passwords changed? Yes or no? 16 days or 16 months, whatever your rules are, there are guidelines within NIST to keep you as to what is considered the cybersecurity framework. And those are rules that your IT team knows about, and making sure that those are implemented safely, securely, and is repeatable. In any of these, whether you're doing a self-assessment or whether you're doing a full audit, you have to have 3 things. 1, you have to document and say, these are our rules, these are our policies, and this is what we are abiding by. This is our IT governance. Second thing, you have to show me the articles that you've actually been doing it. Do you have logs? Do you have the format that says, I've updated this change management log 2 times in the last 6 months? This is what we've adjusted, and these are the rules that are now in place. And then the third thing is, you need to be able to show that evidence. As an example, if you state that the passwords go blank, your screens go blank after 15 minutes of no use, then that needs to be demonstrated. Can you show me that after 15 minutes, your screens will go dark? If you state in there in your control that a password must be entered in order to take that screen from black as a screensaver back to a valid session, you have to be able to show that. And that would be, you're going to show me your control or your policy. You're going to show me that where it is in your GPO or your group policy. And then we're going to see evidence. We're going to sit in front of a machine and say, I haven't touched it in 15 minutes. The screensaver should come on. And if I press the space bar, it should prompt me for a password. You have to be able to show that kind of control. And if you're doing a level 2, there are 110 controls that are in place or need to be in place. Document everything. Talk to your IT guys. This is a policies. These are what we stand by as a company. You must be able to show the policy creation, the articles of evidence, which are key and vital, and you must be able to demonstrate it. And once you achieve a level 1 or level 2 or self attestation, or whether you do a full audit, that doesn't mean you're done. That means from that point forward, you need to keep that going. You need to show that process. You need to continually document and update that whenever there is a change. And you must show that you actually are continuing the documented process of changes in the process. So with that, we always say, train and specialize 1 or 2 attorneys in this process. Again, it depends on load within your actual environment. You may have 1 attorney, you may have 2, you may have 7. Doesn't matter. That is the staff that you work on with the training of your CMMC. Allow them to see the controls and know that. They may have rules on their enclave and not for the majority of the users within your firm. And then look for an experienced CMMC auditor or advisors. You want to be able to have people come in that have been down this road before. And right now it's a little bump in the road with what is going on in the world of CMMC. But look for an advisor. Look for somebody who can guide you through this process. Be able to look at your current security framework that you have, if you have one. And if you don't, you can get one. And look for that and then say, the DIY is not a place when you're dealing with compliance. You don't want to do it yourself. If you do jump into an audit, you may find that it was a dismal failure and that you've just wasted time, money, effort, and energies. So look for somebody to give you some advice on how to get from where you are, your network, your environment to get to something that is secure in the cybersecurity world, or CMMC level 1, level 2, and then be able to sustain that. And you will find that there will be a lot. If you go to sam.gov, there are thousands of contracts, and you may find that there are customers that are actually companies within your zip code or your city and state that are out there and may not have legal representation over them. It is a huge market for the government, and it's all out there. So a couple of things, because I want to get to question and answers, which I hope that we have several from yesterday's little event. Being exposed, you need to understand that this is not a complex journey. It is well documented. If anybody sends a request into this or send me an email to this, we can actually, point you to where all these documents are. The certification is well documented. The assessments are well documented, but people may have interpretations. I don't understand what this control is, or how much information do I need to have in order to meet this compliance or this control. Those things are interpretation, and maybe the word isn't clear in your understanding. That's what advisors are here for. So separating the facts from the fictions about the CMMC process is always big. Find you an advisor. We're here for those kind of things. Questions about CUI can be mostly answered from your client. If the client doesn't understand the rules of CUI, then you need to seek out somebody. Microsoft can help, the government and the contract solicitor, those kind of information will find it, or you can bring in someone to give you advice on the CUI, FCI, whichever it is. And one of the questions coming up, if you have any questions, please drop them in. Is CMMC dead? And this is where the question answer stuff comes in. CMMC is not dead. CMMC Phase 2, which is supposed to be kicked in on November 10th of this year, has been pushed. It is not gone. Level 1 or Phase 1, Level 2, 1, 2, and 3 are out there still. Those haven't gone away. If you have CUI or FCI, you must still protect it. It doesn't mean because Phase 2's been pushed that everyone's relieved of their duties of protecting the data. You are not. That is still in play. So if you were traveling down this road, it doesn't mean CMMC is going away. That is not the case. It is the implementation of Phase 2. And let me point out here what Phase 2 is for those that are unaware. Phase 2, in order to get to Phase 2, they were requiring an audit called a C3APO. In that scenario, there are not enough auditors out there to hold this information. There's a thing called a CCP, which is a practitioner. There is an auditor. There's instructors. It's taken the government a long time to approve these. And with the surge coming in that all level 2s will have to go through an audit, they don't have enough auditors. The flip side of that argument from Pete Hegseth is stating that it is putting a burden on small businesses to have these auditors come in. And so it's turned out that there's a lag in the ability to get audited. The cost of the audits are going up. And so everybody's complaining. And if that rule kicked in on November 10th, we would lose a lot of our vendors that have contracts because they can't get the audits performed. So every defense contractor that is looking for these third-party assessments, there's not enough assessors, auditors to fill that void. And the flip side is it's costing them too much to get it, so they are moving it out 60 days for a possible renewal. One of the other questions that I see that has popped up, how much does CMMC cost? All depends on how big your network is or your enclave. The smaller, the easier. Everything from $5,000 to several $100,000 depends on the size of your company and the complexity of your CMMC scope. So it's a win. And with this, in the next 60 days, we may see a change in some of that. Everybody's saying it needs to be a lower cost. I agree. It needs to be. And some of these time, because time is money, and some of the auditors are having a different opinion on what their time is worth when it's so valuable. So I think we're going to see some changes in the next 60 days. But if you want to achieve a higher customer number, the people that are in compliance, start your self-assessment. You can perform that yourself. Don't turn it in, but go through it and look and see what that is required from your IT staff. Look at it and take a real opinion of it. Reach out, contact an advisor, ourselves, or another person that deals with the CMMC, and say, how far are we? What is our gap between acceptable pass in the assessment and where do we stand? And that is an assessment. And with that, I am going to see if there's any questions coming from the crowd. If anybody has any, please submit them, and I'll be more than happy to answer to the best of my ability. But right now, the CMMC Phase 2 notification was last night. They bounced it and said that the November 10th has been pushed. And so we're all waiting to see what does that 60-day window look like, and will there be any changes to the actual CMMC program. And with that, I'm told we are clear on our questions. So if anyone has any questions after this, please reach out. I am more than happy to help. And with that, I want to say thank you for your time, effort, and energy, and have a wonderful day, evening, morning, wherever you may be. Thank you so much.